Mercedes heard the call. Russell demanded one. Russell.
A lot has been made of this reaction from Toto Wolff, with people suspecting that something was off. Did they know that George was in trouble as soon as he crossed the finish line? Or did Toto have mixed feelings about the result, given Lewis had controlled most of the race but felt blindsided by the strategy? The Belgian Grand Prix was a bittersweet race for Mercedes-Benz. George Russell initially won the race, taking the risk with a one-stop strategy and fending off his teammate right until the very end. But this victory didn't last very long, as he was later disqualified for being 1.5 kilograms under the weight limit. Initially, Lewis was pretty miffed about the whole situation. In fact, Mercedes didn't even take a team photo because my man had already left. Allowing the two drivers to split their strategies and duke it out for the win made for an exciting race. But it very easily could have ended up in Piastri beating them both. Lewis kept explaining that he still had a lot of tyre left at the end of each stint and how he wanted to do a one-stop.
Every stint I had tyres left, but the team pulled me in. So, unfortunate, but it is one of those days.
Well, when you put the faith in, you have to put your faith in the people that you work with. And so I put my faith in my strategists. I should be able to lean on them fully. I told them that the tyres were fine, and they pulled me in. I know that I was at risk of getting one stop by my teammate. They didn't tell me that.
Bonjour Lewis, c'est une grosse performance de Mercedes aujourd'hui, mais êtes-vous un peu déçu sur un plan personnel à la fin de la course, de la manière dont ça s'est terminé? Bien sûr, je ne suis pas heureux, mais je suis heureux pour l'équipe. Avez-vous été surpris de la stratégie et de la manière dont les pneus se sont dégradés? Oui. Non, il n'y a pas grand-chose de plus à dire. On a signé un doublé. On a inversé les stratégies.
But was this actually the case? Let's take a look at what went down over team radio for both drivers and their engineers. I've sourced the full transcript from racefans.net, so feel free to check it out after this video. I'll leave a link in the description to the page. The initial round of pit stops, Russell and Verstappen were the first to pull the trigger on lap 11. Then Hamilton, Perez and Piastri followed a lap later. Piastri gets undercut by Russell, but quickly makes up the place again on the Kemmel straight. Then Leclerc comes in one lap after. Lando stays out a few more laps to try and build up a tyre offset to then attack the drivers ahead of him later on. And the final driver to make his stop was Carlos Sainz, as he ran the hard tyre to begin with. Lap 21 comes around and Russell makes a move on Perez to take 4th place. Red Bull's gamble to run a higher downforce setup worked a treat in qualifying, but hurt them in the race since they were getting eaten alive down the Kemmel straight. Marcus Dudley comes on the radio to hype up George's overtake and motivate him to get after Piastri. Then he informs Russell about the Red Bull's progress. Lap 22, Bono tells Lewis his pace is similar to Leclerc and Perez, while George is told to go into strat mode 6 after pushing to get past the Mexican. Lap 23, Bono tells Lewis that his stint length on the hard tyre will be target plus 4. Essentially, they would do 4 more laps than they initially had planned. Meanwhile, Russell is told to go into a D-rate mode to charge the battery. Lap 24, Hamilton tells the team the tyres are feeling good, and the same with Russell. Now, here's where things get interesting. Leclerc comes in on lap 25 to try and undercut Hamilton. Naturally, conversation started about covering off that threat, and on lap 26, Bono tells Lewis they're going to box. Hamilton says the balance is still good and asks to go for an extra lap. He then says the tyres are still feeling good though, but they override this request since the logical thing to do at this point is box to avoid getting undercut. Meanwhile, over on Russell's team radio, he's thinking about the one-stop, saying the exact same thing as Lewis, the tyres are feeling good. Lap 27, Russell is warned about the threat of drivers two-stopping, but insists on making the one-stop work for him. A lap later, he says the tyres are getting quicker and quicker. So lap 29 rolls around and Hamilton asks if Russell is ahead of him. Indeed, he is. Bono also says the tyre wear on the previous set was very, very low. And at this point, you can probably imagine that Lewis was thinking, why didn't we just go to the end? He also tells him what times he needs to be doing to catch his teammate, as well as fend off the late charge from Oscar Piastri. George is asked to confirm if he's happy to stay out, and he copies. A few more laps run by, and Hamilton questions whether he's still on to beat Russell. Bono tells him it's going to be close and areas he can improve. Meanwhile, Russell doesn't say much at all over the radio. His race engineer is just constantly informing him about the gap to Lewis and the number of laps remaining. Eventually, Hamilton catches Russell, and they're told to give each other plenty of space. And the rest, as they say, is history. George's gamble worked a treat, and he managed his tyres perfectly. The tyre whisperer, as Toto put it. But ultimately, his brilliant win didn't last very long, as he was quickly disqualified for his car being below the weight limit. There's been a lot of speculation as to how this came about. Factors like tyre wear, lack of an in-lap to collect pickup, among other things. However, it really boils down to someone just making a miscalculation. That's it. As for whether there was an advantage gained or not, 1.5 kilograms is a significant amount to be under by in F1 terms. There's a clip of Lewis explaining how even if you're a kilo overweight, you can lose up to 2 seconds over the course of a race distance. While unfortunate, technical infringements are a black and white rule. There's no way around it. I will say though that both drivers thoroughly deserved the win. Russell took a risk and it paid off. It was just unlucky there was a miscalculation made on his side of the garage. Or was there? I mean, it seems like an amateur mistake for a team that has won 8 constructors titles. Am I buying it? Hell nah. Even Toto knew they were cooked. Okay, that's enough conspiracy before people come after me in the comments. You could look at it in one of two ways. They honestly just made a miscalculation and maybe forgot to add in a bit of ballast to ensure the car would meet the minimum weight requirements, which I feel like is the more plausible explanation. Or for the more suspicious people out there, they knew exactly what they were doing and tried to cheat the system, but it backfired. Whatever your opinion may be, there's another dilemma that I think went a bit under the radar, and that is their driver dynamic. Of course, off track, they have a lot of respect for each other. But on track, both drivers are extremely competitive. That goes without saying. They both have a winner's mindset. Hamilton's killer instinct is what allowed him to get past Checo at the start and later past Leclerc while the tyres were still fresh. Meanwhile, Russell had the awareness of mind to realise that the one stop was a viable option and took the risk, which worked out well for him before the penalty. This is what made the situation so awkward for Mercedes after the race, and now they have a fast car, we're only going to see more of this. This result would have maximised points overall. A 1-2 is way better than a 1-5 or a 1-4. But you can understand why initially Lewis felt a bit blindsided. Granted, he had opportunities to overtake, but couldn't because the impact of dirty air was greater than expected. But remember that it was Mercedes who allowed it to happen. If they really wanted to cover Piastri, they would have just let Hamilton through since he had the better pace and then asked him to give DRS and a slipstream to Russell. Had the roles been reversed with George behind Lewis on the 2-stop strategy, I'm pretty certain he would be telling the team, look, I'm the one with a better pace, do what's best for the team and let me past. But instead, they allowed them to race. And as fans, this is what we want to see. It made for an exciting finish. But if you're in Mercedes' position, it just didn't make sense to waste time battling each other. Who knows what could have happened if Lewis decided to go for a move and they clashed. McLaren would have snatched the win away from them. To me, it's becoming clear that this won't be the last flashpoint between the two drivers. Russell wants to prove himself against a 7-time champion by beating him, and on the other hand, Hamilton wants to go out on a high with a team that he's built the most success with in Formula 1. Let me know what you guys think about what happened in Belgium. The strategy, the disqualification, whatever you want to talk about, be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you're new to keep up to date with my latest videos in the future. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.